Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. As the girl turns, and you are in my orbit on Red State Substack, wherever you might see this video, even on X. It's been a while, and it's good to hopefully see everybody. I hope you're happy to see me. It has been quite a whirlwind year so far, not just with this very epic administration and then covering CPAC and other things that have gone on. But the fact that in our own personal lives we've had some major transitions and big good stuff. So that has been occupying a lot of my time, along with juggling Red State and 1819 News and all the other stuff. So good to see you. And I get the opportunity of interviewing Jennifer Say of XXXY as our first entree back. So I'm going to throw that up even for our paid subscribers. So look for even for our free subscribers. So I look forward to getting comments and feedback about what you think. Here's Jennifer. Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Thank you so much for being able to join so quickly.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. How long has XXXY Athletics been around?
Not even a year. Will be a year and a week.
Okay, that's awesome. Happy
Pretty
birthday.
new. Yeah,
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, March
And
24th, 1 year.
awesome. So the background, a little bit of background on your past and also why you chose to launch this particular battle.
Yeah, I was a very serious gymnast as a child in the 70s and 80s. I was a national team member for 7 years and a national champion actually in 1986. I, despite my successes, came out of the sport. It's a pretty abusive sport, which I think the world knows now.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that when I left the sport. And eventually in 2008, I wrote a book about it, which was the first person account of the abuse in the sport. And I ended up kind of going to battle with the governing body, USA Gymnastics, as well as the US Olympic Committee, who were, of course, saying, everything's great over here. We now know that's not true.
Yeah.
And kind of dragging me through the mud for it. In the meantime, I had a great career in corporate America. I worked at Levi's for 23 years. I became the brand president in 2020. But everything went a little upside down. I was pretty assertive about pushing back on closed schools during COVID and other restrictions to children. And I ultimately resigned from Levi's in 2022. So I was left with sort of a choice to make about what to do next. And this is what I decided to do next. I, thought combining my athletic background with my brand building experience, when no other brand is really willing to stand up for the protection of women's sports, why not me? So here we are.
Well, that's fabulous, especially having been on the inside of both industries.
Yeah.
You are a unique voice as well as you recognize the passion and the drive of young women who I was watching the video of Sia Lili, your latest Courage Award person, and just those are the stories of three-quarters of the women who enter athletics. It's not all the what is that horrible person's name, Megan Rapinoe, and it's not all them. It's just kids who I want to get ahead.
That's
Here's the way I can get ahead. Or really that they just one of my godchildren is a competitive swimmer, and that is she just has a connection to it. She doesn't necessarily think she's going to get to the Olympics. I think she is, but I'm biased. But she just has a connection to it, and to see all of these women having to fight back against an industry that suddenly says, "Well, you're not women anymore, and this one is." So here they go.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, most kids and girls compete in sports in record numbers now. When I first started gymnastics, it was 1974. There just weren't that many sports opportunities for little girls. It was, just after Title IX had passed. But now girls participate all the time. And as a parent of 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl, I am very supportive of that. I love what sports can offer a young person. It's not about going to the Olympics. It's not about being able to do a flip on the beam. It's about developing character and courage and resilience and learning that you can do really hard things. And if you fall down, you can get up and keep trying. And that you're not going to be great at something right away, but you have to work hard at it. That's the value of sports. And, the Nikes of the world only celebrate the world champions. And guess what? The D1 competitive athletes like Sia work just as hard. They give up just as much. And, I think Sia, because she stood up as the captain of the women's volleyball team at University of Nevada and said, we're not going to compete against a team that's fielding a male player. That's not fair. It's not right. This is bigger than me. I think she exhibits the kind of courage we want to develop in young people. And you know what? It's really hard for young women to do that because and I know we get called, not just young women, but old women like me get called every name in the book. They will, there are threats of violence that come at me very regularly. Take your job, take your reputation. We have a coach that we work with, Melissa Beatty-Smoos, who basically lost her job because she spoke out as an assistant coach at San Jose State University. I mean, they will come for your livelihood. And so the courage to do it anyway, as a person as young as Sia or Riley, even who's only 23, I'm just in awe of these young women. And I want them to know that we support them and that there's a community. They are not alone, even if it feels like it at their school or, in their community. There's a big community of us, athletes and former athletes, who support them. And, I'm lucky to be in a position where I can actually provide some sponsorship dollars for them. So they really aren't, we're hoping to take the monetary sting out of cancellation a little bit.
Gotcha. Where do you see, not just obviously selling clothing that is a brand, but where do you see XXXY launching this awards? Do you see a whole network like ESPN or things like that with the brand?
Yeah, I want us to be a successful brand. I'm not in this as a gimmick. I want to make amazing product that people love and come back to, and that they feel they have an alternative to the kind of woke brands who pretend to champion women but really do no such thing. So, yeah, people who disagree with us say all the time, "You're just in this to make money." No, but I am in it to run a successful brand, and if this brand doesn't grow and isn't profitable, I don't get to do the advocacy either.
Right.
So we have to prioritize business results. That said, I believe brands can influence the culture, and I would love to get to a place not where we have a network, but we have our own awards ceremony. We're actually contemplating this now. ESPN has the what do they call it? The Arthur Ashe Courage Award. It's one of their awards at the ESPYs every year, and I was fortunate to attend the ESPYs where they gave it to a lot of the Larry Nassar victims. Hundreds of young women won the award in 1 year. And I would love to replace the ESPYs, or at least compete with the ESPYs, and reward brave female athletes who are courageous and stand up in defense of their sports, not just on this issue of males entering women's sports and spaces, but the issue of abuse in women's sports is still very significant as well. So, we certainly want to expand all of the ways that we support brave, courageous women athletes.
Awesome. Do you see the pendulum swinging back in the right direction with, President Trump's executive order about getting men out of women's sports? And
Yeah.
sadly, our Senate didn't come through. But do you see the tide changing where we understand this is just really unacceptable and you're demoralizing women this way?
Yeah. It's moving. And I'm so grateful to Trump and the administration for putting it, at the center of the conversation and for signing this executive order. I got to attend the signing, which was very exciting. But I caution us from being too overconfident. First of all, an executive order is not legislation. And as you just stated, it did not get moved forward in the Senate. Not a single Democrat voted to protect women's sports. So that's the first thing I would say. The other thing I would say is an executive order is limited. So it ends with his presidency. If we have a Democrat president that wants to overturn it, that will happen. It also only impacts athletes in the federally funded system, so K through 12. As a gymnast, I competed outside of that. I was on a private club and I competed in the Olympic movement. There are twice as many athletes that compete outside of federally funded institutions. So that's untouched right now. So I think that most people don't understand the sports government. Why would you? Why would you understand that landscape? So
Yeah.
we are far, far, far from done. And I think even though all the polls would show that 80% of Americans agree with us that women's sports should be for women, I can't believe I have to say that phrase. But they still aren't saying it out loud. They say it in an anonymous poll, but they don't say it out loud. And I think, the reason I wanted to start the brand was to normalize standing up and saying this very true thing in defense of women and girls. And I just still feel like we're the minority that are willing to speak, and that the tyrannical, bullying minority who thinks the opposite they still rule the airwaves in a sense, So I just think we have, I think, and all the other sort of women lawyers, legislators, advocates I work with would agree that we have quite a long way, but we're grateful to Trump for doing what he's done and kind of passing the baton to us.
So, along with giving that award to Sia, what would you have to say to these young athletes out there who maybe aren't ready to use their
Yeah.
voice the way Sia and Riley Gaines has?
Well, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about it and provide you with the support and encouragement. Most of these young women who have spoken out recognize that this is more important than anything. Really, literal truth is at stake. We can't go around being told we must say that men can be women. That is a lie. A lie. That's an egregious lie. And so we're all fighting for the rights of women and girls and truth. And it stinks that sometimes sacrifice is required to stand up and do the right thing, but it is. And, you're a fighter is what I would tell her, and you can do it. And you have the support of people like me and Riley and Sia, and we stand with you. And I think what we're fighting for, all of us, is so much bigger than an NCAA title. I will tell you this. The contribution I feel that is most significant that I made to gymnastics, it has nothing to do with winning a national championship or being a 7-time national team member. It is solely exposing the abuse in the sport so that other young gymnasts don't have to deal with what I dealt with while training. So I just think we all have a larger purpose, and whether you believe that because of your faith or because of some moral compass of your own, I don't care where you get it from. But I think, I don't think this changes until the currently competing athletes say enough is enough. This has to change. And so I would just want any young woman to know I'd be right there with them. I promise you Riley would be and Sia would be too. And stand up and do the right thing. We all like to think of ourselves as people who do the right thing, but very few do. So.
No, that's fabulous. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have other interviews and things going on, so look forward to what the brand will do. And I need to go on the website and buy some things.
We can get you something.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.